Hello, everyone. Welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker training. Today, we actually have all our ducks in a row and everything lined up correctly. So this is fmtrain.tv. It is Friday in July sometime. So not sure what year it is, but when you watch the video on YouTube, it should probably tell you what year it is. So real quick, upcoming broadcast schedule at fmtrain.tv. If you come over here, and I press, maybe I zoom just a little bit. Today is open Q&A on FileMaker Server. Monday, MongoDB with Chris Moyer. Chris Moyer will be here on Monday. We're going to bring him in on Monday to have a conversation. That'll be very exciting. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we have more bad robot action. So some robots going on. That'll be talking about automation in FileMaker, automating it beyond PSAS and beyond SASE. If you don't know what SASE and PSAS are, then you definitely need paid FileMaker training from the leading in FileMaker training companies. Visit fmtraining.tv. I need an explosion sound, right? So there you go. Come down here, check out the training bundles, high value. So instead of saying, hey, this is a free FileMaker training channel, welcome to our live stream every day. And then why don't you visit me on Patreon and give me free money? I don't need that. How about I give you awesome training and you get it at a super great discount, and that way you can support the channel that way, right? What do you think, Jacob? Today's going to be exciting. We got Jacob Taylor, who is a awesome sort of FileMaker server guy, the smartest server guy I know. Maybe with an exception of Wim DeCourt might be slightly better, but only because Wim's got 20 more years of experience than Jacob Taylor does. And he's old enough to be Jacob's dad. So
that's fine. It's cool.
It's cool, right? You
I'm not mad about it.
I'm mad about it. But I mean, I'm being honest about it. I mean, it's impressive. So, and I'm thrilled that he works at RCC. Today is about FileMaker Server. So Jacob Taylor, where are we at and what are we talking about? And I mean,
sure.
What is FileMaker Server and why do we care? I guess I should ask that question.
Yeah, start at the beginning. You all may have noticed there was a recent FileMaker Server release, and actually there were two. So 19.5 is out, just generally speaking. That comes with a couple of new features, which are mostly server side. A couple of them are awesome for FileMaker Pro too, and we'll talk about those perhaps in just a minute. But big new features in FileMaker Server. It supports Ubuntu 20.04, which will sound quite a bit more modern than the 18.04 that we've been running on for a while since the transition off of CentOS. They've killed a bunch of bugs. They were touting this number of 400 bugs fixed. We don't get the whole list, but you can see my little scroll bar over here is not tiny, so it's they've noted a chunk of them. Sorry, I'm actually on the wrong page.
You're on the wrong one.
There you go. Yeah. All right. So there's the good example of the very tiny scroll bar, because there's a bunch of new stuff in it. There's a couple headline features. One relevant to Pro, which is the server side summary fields. We also have a lovely doc on that as to when that runs, which is wonderful, and more importantly, when it doesn't run. But bigger stuff, we have parallel backups now, and there's a couple different parts to that. It's cool. We're not using it yet. We'll see. I think actually we have one test server, and we'll show it today and how you turn it on and do that kind of stuff. But at a basic level, what happens is there's some additional intelligence now in the 19.5 product. So again, the clients have to be 19.5, the server has to be 19.5, or nothing I'm talking about. Like the Intel's not there, so it kind of does other things. There is intelligence put back and forth between Pro and WebDirect, I believe Go also, between that and server on 19.5. And it uses that, and it's things like scripts going across files, relationships that are cross-file, to kind of group up your databases. So if you only have one database, this doesn't apply to you, and you probably don't care at all. But if you have, for example, a legacy solution, you've got 30 or 40 or 50 files. I set up a server for a local government. They have 104 or something like that. They'll be interested in this at some point. And so what it does is it looks, but it kind of keeps track of what files are talking to each other, which ones have shared data and things like that. And then we'll try to, rather than the current behavior of pause all the databases simultaneously and then back them up one at a time in series, it will pause that group of them simultaneously and back those up. And so that gives you a couple potential benefits, one of which is actually it better takes advantage of things like SSDs on modern servers for backup purposes. So theoretically, they should go faster. I'm hoping or waiting for somebody to run some numbers on this. I expect Hansa will probably.
That'll be. I was going to say Hansa. That's a Hansa.
Yep.
Paging Dr. Hansa.
Yeah, and I know he's already done the performance analysis on server-side summaries and that stuff.
Oh yeah, that was way faster. Yeah. So I know you're covering this, but I want to get to the punchline of the joke here. And the punchline of the joke was that Claris comes out with 19.5.1 and they had all this stuff in it. And they said, well, we fixed 400 bugs. And what they left off the README is that we've introduced 25 totally new bugs that are absolute showstoppers. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Yes.
So then we all were like, hey, we didn't know that at the time, but being the fact that this is kind of their first release with 19.5, and knowing kind of the history of their first, steps on the moon, you might have sent your astronauts to the moon without any oxygen. They came out with 19.5.2, which is where they started. That's why this conversation is happening today, because they theoretically have patched the X number of bugs that they gave to us that were brand new. Right. And I guess we should talk about those a little bit at some point. I know you got your list here, but
there's like one bug that was relevant to server people like me, where frankly the upgrade process in 19.5.1 didn't work under certain circumstances. I think that's corrected. Someone tested that. I tried it today, so there's a server that we'll show today that's a 19.5.2. I ran the upgrade process on it. It seems to have worked, but that's a single server has been tested, so don't bank your entire business on it.
Okay.
But on my screen here actually are some of the other issues that they had. FileMaker Server would just halt itself on the new Ubuntu version if you tried to send an email.
Okay, awesome.
Love that. Yeah, fixed. Replace field contents was super duper duper slow. In 19.5.1, that is, you have to get 19.5.2 on both ends to correct that. They were trying to do something with record locking or something like that, some other unrelated fix, and it slowed the heck out of it. PDFs, were not being generated correctly. That will eat a large number of our clients. And the quote function. And
the last one was so funny, right? So I almost I wanted to have a conversation over here, right? Because this is one of those so you have this. Claire said they're one of their North Stars. Our North Stars, not to break anything, right? So there's this conversation that goes on at Claire. It's like, hey, what's going on? Hey, right? So we're over here having our moment, right? And it's like, let's change the quote function. Yeah. Right. And they're like, why would you change the quote function? Well, there's some sort of conversation going on in there between Claris and other people at Claris, and they're like, decide this is a great idea. So they changed how this thing works. It's only worked the same way for 20 years. Don't worry about it. All right. So all these customer solutions that have been working correctly suddenly start doing weird because they change how the quote function actually generates its results. And it's one of those deals once you build a successful product and people are using it, you don't want to kill all those customers, right? You don't want to kill them. If you need a new function that behaves better or different, or you need to fix a function, you actually need to create a new one so people can use the new one to get the new behavior, even if the old one is horribly incorrect. Like if you create a math function and you do math and you add up 2 + 2 is 5, and it's been doing that for 25 years, pretty much everyone in the community has worked around it. we're using it. We worked around it. We figured it out. We fix it. We do something. And if you magically retroactively changed it, then all our solutions are broke. So you have to build a new function. Well, Claris decide to have a conversation with herself and change it. That's been fixed.
We also have they quadrupled, which we'll see how much that matters, but they've also quadrupled the server side, the script engine on the server side, its own like internal cache. Yeah, so they quadrupled the RAM cache for specifically the script engine. So this is, you've got a scheduled script, so this will be either PSOS or SASE. On the server side will benefit from this, and that either means it can have more records in its own memory at once that it's processing, going through. It might help with JSON performance, I'm unsure. I know from the testing notes that they were specifically looking for this to improve file transfer speeds. People were noticing that, for example, like bringing large files in, probably via insert from URL or something like that, on the server side was, the performance could have been better as a short version. And this was at least targeted to improve that situation. The headline feature is the parallel backups. I kind of started talking about that earlier. One thing that comes with that's super useful, actually, and which I'm not sure if it requires parallel backups being enabled or not. It's unclear from the documentation, so I have to test it, and I've not done so yet. Is you can cancel backups now, which is awesome, actually. Because, for example, one of my other senior engineers and I have gotten ourselves into a situation, which for other reasons is now fixed, but I've gotten ourselves into a situation where a customer's backups would take, say, 55 minutes because of the obnoxious amount of container data, externally stored container data that they had. And so previous to this, you couldn't stop a backup. You couldn't pause it. If you tried to close a file, for example, and you were 1 second too late on clicking that before that hour-long backup started, you were waiting for an hour before you can do whatever it was that you were going to be doing on the server. And in general, FileMaker was great, and it wasn't going to crash or something like that. But it was a huge issue if you had to wait until the end of that and you just failed to click the backup off before you go close it or whatever to do whatever you're going to do at the server. So theoretically now we can cancel those in the middle of it, which is awesome, actually. We'll see at some point. I'll have the chance to save myself with that, but
from David Angel. So Claris is behaving like plus or minus, like MS with the bugs.
Microsoft, yeah. I don't know. I haven't dealt too much with Microsoft and bugs, except they have a reputation for it almost seems like they deliberately put them into the product. So, at least historically, that was their thing. So,
and like we were talking about, they're going to kill basic authentication for SMTP. And they announced it and immediately started smoke testing people by randomly flipping it on and off on the accounts to alert. I don't know if that's a better way to alert people that the change is coming, but it certainly gets everybody's attention.
I don't think we've mentioned that. Do you want to mention the crew here real quick? The Friday crew. What's up, crew? All right.
Yeah.
Here's your brain dump. This is from my senior meeting on Tuesday. Yep. Go ahead.
So if you all have been paying attention to, for example, Google, they started this process years ago with trying to get people to stop using basic authentication, right? A direct, like send mail via SMTP in FileMaker. You put the server address in, whatever your SSL details are, and an email and a password, and that's it. That's the whole thing. That's all you need. It sends as you. You're good to go. So Google has been working for years to get rid of that because they consider it insecure. And you can kind of understand why if somebody grabs your password or something like that. Got it. Okay. And so they moved everyone to OAuth, which would be logging into the Google account, and then the way that it actually sends the emails with this kind of token process. They get the token and use the token. You use the token to send the email. That doesn't really work in current products, and so we tend to send people to 360works or MBS or somebody else for that sort of a process. Microsoft is doing the same thing, except unlike Google taking years to make this change, Microsoft has announced the whole thing is going to happen by like October, like the end of October or something this year. And they announced it this month. They may have pre-announced it this spring. I'm not sure. But they started like slam testing people this month, and they didn't say that they were going to do that until they put the blog post out saying, oh yeah, that's why your emails are now randomly failing, because we are randomly flipping the setting on and off that allows you to use the old basic authentication. And so sometimes it just fails now, and it tells you, oh, you're supposed to have used the OAuth token sort of process for sending email. Except again, they're not taking years to make this change. It's 6 months tops, 3 months, really.
Well, giving people a little bit of a fail is kind of like if you have the term is you have someone who's intractable, you can't get their attention, they don't want to respond to this issue, and so it's being a giant fire, you slowly turn up the heat over time, right? I guess.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not a psychology major, but I play one on TV. And it seems to me that might be the way of trying to cushion the blow. So certain people who don't do anything with technology, like certain marketing or salespeople, if those people suddenly have emails that don't go out, maybe they'll like, oh, let's talk to the IT department and screaming and let's get this dealt with. So real quick, Margaret, if Margaret can find an email, we shot a video on this recently. I'm going to rehash this video and pop it up. It's where we talked about Google shutting this off and what are some options for sending mails out without basic authentication. We did that because we were talking about Google at the time, and then I don't know, a month later, Microsoft sends out an email about it. So everyone's on this general transition away from basic authorization, right? So that's kind of where this is going. So we've got this. So if you what you care about, if you're going to install server, oh, Jacob, when you ran the update, you're going to give us a demo, but the updater actually worked on 19.5.2.
Yes, it did. Yep.
Now, does that mean it'll work everywhere?
No.
It means that it might work.
It means it worked once, is all it means. They've gotten a lot better with this, but very seriously, one of the reported issues somewhere in the community forums I saw with 19.5.1 specifically is somebody was trying to do an upgrade using the usual set of steps, and it did something wrong. It ate the server, Can
I make a suggestion? So once again, this goes back. Jacob was talking about kind of coming back and doing a quickie overview of we have like this 5-hour deep dive into from scratch a Windows server install on Amazon with the whole thing. But going back and doing a Windows install, but a 1 hour kind of abbreviated kind of high points for people who don't really want the super deep stuff. We've done this before, but doing it periodically is not a bad idea. Oh, you're at so upgrading your server. And I say the reason I keep repeating certain things to people, like always have backups, never use a crash file, because this week we had someone email us saying, oh, my database has crashed and it doesn't work anymore. And I'm like, well, haven't you watched our videos? Yeah, I watched all your videos. Then obviously you've seen the videos about not using your crashed database. If your server crashes, go to the last backup. And you hear this long pause, this long silence, like, well, I didn't see all the videos, just like mostly all the videos, except the really super important ones. So an obvious statement I'm going to say here, especially if you have a virtual server on Amazon or probably on Azure or any place else where you have a virtual server, if you're going to roll out a new FileMaker version of FileMaker Server, just build it with a new box, right? Or replicate it and try to upgrade the replication. But you want to have customers using your older version, or your staff are using it. And then parallel to that, you're building this new one and you try the updater, and if the updater works, it's great. If it roasts it, it doesn't cause a problem. Where this becomes an issue, if you have one piece of hardware in the office and you're not going to get another piece of hardware, and so you're stuck with this literally kind of like a virtual gun to your head of I'm going to run this update, but if it doesn't work, then everyone's going to be down and the server won't be coming back up until I can format the drive and rebuild it, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a dangerous moment. That's why in the old days, we would do server updates starting Friday night. Poor Jacob Taylor would work Friday night, all day Saturday, all day Sunday, assuming whatever. Now it's much easier. We just spin up a new server for you. It happens really rapidly, at least from our side. But once again, then you move everything over and then you shut off the old virtual server. So for a short period of time, you're going to pay for 2 virtual servers on Amazon, right? I used to be really skeptical about Amazon. That operation is damn near rock solid. You're much more likely to have a local internet outage than a problem with Amazon. It's just, I mean, it's got to be
literally
like
for the first time in months, we had our first Amazon randomly kills one of my customer servers because the hardware died or like whatever. They decommissioned the server rack, and they don't safely shut your stuff down. That's the only. I've almost stopped having that conversation with clients because it actually happens so rarely, and I am proud to say it's the first time in months. It happened this morning, and I had to put somebody's server back up. But you go in, you stop it, you start it, you do a quick restoration from the last good backup, and they're live. That's it.
Since we haven't talked about this, let me just alert everyone real quick. So if you set up an Amazon server and it's on your Amazon account, and then if things happen or whatever, maybe you get a bill, they email you the bill once a month, all that kind of stuff. You can get an email somewhere. We have a screenshot of this where it says, you probably should try to shut down your instance. We're going to have to deprecate the hardware because of an impending hardware failure. What it sounds like when you read the email is like they're probably running some sort of RAID system, and the RAID is making an alarm noise that the hardware is failing and it's almost going to die. And your stuff's the email implies your stuff is still running, but you need to shut it down, at least shut down FileMaker correctly. You're not going to lose the data per se, but that instance is going to go away. And if it goes away while the database is running, the files are crashed. You have to use a backup. Here's the reality with Amazon. This is one of probably the only negative thing I could say about them is by the time you get that email, your shit is already cooked. It's dead. Yeah. It's never ever been there when they said, "Hey, we're going to shut it down. Things are going bad." This is literally you getting a call about potential smoke in your house, and you get there. The fire was yesterday. The fire department already put it out. It's nothing but ashes. You show up thinking, hey, I got a chance to save this. It's already dead. So just understand that's a fundamental of that email. So if you see it, you're already toast. There's no, right, Jacob? So yeah.
I think there is a single instance since I've worked here where somebody actually received that email in advance of their server going down. And because the email is really badly worded, they didn't know what it meant. And then I get an email that their FileMaker's down the next day. And I go in and they're like, yeah, I got this really cryptic email from Amazon. And I look at the timestamps on it, and they did actually get it before the server shut down. And I was like, oh, nice. But the client had no idea what they were being told. So
they did nothing. Yes. Okay, great. All right.
Yep. So
cool. All right. So this is 19.5.2. Okay.
Very latest. Yep.
Okay.
So and I turned on all the bells and whistles, so we have everything. I turned on all the parallel backups. This is actually the machine that Christian Schmidt, who's here on the Zoom, did some MBS demos and stuff with. It's the same machine.
Is this Windows or is this Ubuntu?
This is Windows. Yeah, Windows. This is Windows. Okay. We have an Ubuntu one as well.
Oh, okay.
I think that one's 19.5.1 though. Anyway. Okay. So, and so I turned on parallel backups. I wonder, I'm going to go see, we'll see if I make an idiot of myself on air here. And we're going to find out actually if it correctly notes. What I want to see is, because we've heard that it's supposed to notate what the file groups are when it runs the backup.
Really?
Yeah. So we're going to go all the way to the bottom and let's see. Oh, yep. There's your information. There's your new codes. So, yep. File set 0, files 4. So there it is. These are the notes. So this is the new parallel backups. I turned it on this morning so that there'd be a couple of these running before we had stream. So file set 0 is basically it operating in old style. I think you still get a benefit, which is it does all 4 files at the same time. It's just, that's not a huge, matters less if you don't have giant databases or a ton of them or both. but you turn the feature on, you just still kind of get a benefit out of it. Cool.
All right, so David Angel says, as a question, of course, it's kind of a kind of like here's a grenade where I pulled the pin and I'm just going to hand it to you. Try not to let go of the spoon, as they say on the grenade. FMP Host is a good site to host FileMaker? Question mark.
I mean, obviously you're asking about a competitor, but we don't endorse that one.
Kinda.
There are a bunch of our competitors, I'll say in general, other hosting companies that I will endorse. They're fine. FMP Host actually is not one of them usually. I'll always say perhaps I'm wrong or perhaps they've improved things. The issues that our customers have run into with them in the past is performance. My understanding is, at least from what we've observed, is they overload their servers. And so you don't get it, like the price isn't bad basically, but you don't get the performance that you're even paying for, because it's a comparable price to me setting up an Amazon server for you. The difference, I suppose, is you don't have to pay me to do it, so that makes it a little cheaper. But the actual monthly rates that FMP Host charges at this point anyway are comparable to an Amazon server. And so it just, at least in the 17 and 18 FileMaker version era, it wasn't a good deal for our clients. It was cheaper in a literal sense, but we had several clients almost driven away from FileMaker, thinking that FileMaker was really slow, and FileMaker wasn't the slow part. It was FMP Host servers. I rescued a couple of those clients, as in keeping them on the FileMaker platform, because we put them on Amazon and the server wasn't slow anymore. And I didn't. Their bill really didn't change. It was a net for them. So
So Josh Orman just posted a link where Jeremy Brown did a conversation about Molly Connolly. Like, once again, it depends what you need.
Cool.
Yeah, it depends. For what we do. So to be clear about it, we don't do hosting. What we do is we have a very speedy process where we're able to set up people's servers for them on Amazon, lickety split. And in fact, all the time that we spend is mostly hand-holding people on the phone through the process of understanding what they're dealing with. But that way they are directly talking to Amazon in terms of the billing and stuff like that. We set them up. We rarely ever have an issue, or the customer has an issue. So, but at the same time, you're running around without like a giant net underneath you. So if you need support or help, get a hold of your local FileMaker person to help you with that, etc. Call Josh. Josh has nothing to do. He can help you with that.
Josh Orman is endorsing Proofgeist, Soliant, and FM Cloud FM. I have sent people to FM Cloud FM, and they're great, basically. So I had a client who wanted a Linux server and was in Europe, and they have a location. So it was
all right. Cool.
It was a match. So
cool.
And I've heard no complaints from that client, except that I can't help them with their server anymore. Short version, but they now email Fabrice, so it's fine.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, because he was doing the Docker stuff, right? So
Okay.
All right, cool. All right, other stuff that we wanted to cover about that. So that log entry, here's a new log entry as part of the grouping of the parallel backups, right? Once again, it's not very exciting right here because we have a very unexciting server at the moment. But this is Christian Schmidt's test demo server. Whenever Christian does demos where we get to play with him and demo stuff and participate in the demo, hint, Christian Schmidt, that it's always a much more useful broadcast. We always like those. Very, very exciting.
I'll just say one other random extra detail. It's not the Linux server. I'm not showing the Linux server right now, but this is looking to be a big change. Sorry, I'm highlighting the wrong one. But the change on the new version of Ubuntu, right? We have two Linux platforms that we're supporting, which is Ubuntu 18.04 and then Ubuntu 20.04.
Yeah.
And they give you the option between Apache and Nginx. I think there's a switcher script or something in there I saw somewhere. I would not do that. I would just tell you to use Nginx instead, which is the default. That will probably be a large improvement, actually. In addition to the other work Claris has put in on WebDirect in the last couple of versions. They've been where was that? There was a session I heard. Was that Clay at Auto Enter? Maybe, if I'm remembering right. Perhaps I'm not. Basically, they're one of their current like internal. I consider it maintenance work because it makes WebDirect more scalable, can do more users. There was a conversation about potentially like increasing the number certified for FileMaker Server at some point and things like that. Hasn't happened yet, but it's a potential future item. But they've been working, and people have noticed they've been doing a lot of work on WebDirect, not really reducing the constraints of it because it has certain challenges for use, certain things it doesn't do very well, things like that. But just literally making the performance on it maybe not awesome, but much better. Much better.
We do. We have a question when you're done with that. So,
Sure.
okay, so on Twitch, I want to welcome Obelix FM.
Obelix
FM. Many government
French.
agencies could use automated solutions via FileMaker. Some government agencies do use FileMaker. I've never dealt with the federal government on that, but there are federal government agencies that do that. And the question is, what are the barriers, i.e. to, I guess, government agencies using FileMaker? I'm just going to read this whole thing out. How about they require authentication via government issues common access cards? Also, there's an insane amount of security requirements for unclassified and controlled unclassified information. Would love to see Claris provide guidance on setting up a secure cloud server along with common access card access authentication. Are there any government agencies using FileMaker Cloud with CAC authentication? I haven't.
That's a good question.
Those are really good questions. I don't personally have experience using the common access cards. We'll use that acronym going forward as CAC. From a very surface level, at least the U.S. government has a deal with Amazon where they have kind of their own kind of cooked up Amazon data centers, right? So we always talk about Amazon regions, right, and availability zones, right? And so we have a West Coast in San Jose and a West Coast in Oregon and in Ohio, and then Arlington, Virginia, and down in Florida, I think somewhere, right? But there's actually specific regions, like entire data centers that are U.S. government, right? That are like, and I've never played with any of that. I know they exist. I don't know if Josh has played with them. Canberra, here we go. Canberra deals with this stuff explicitly, but he was doing a security and testing and making sure networks were secure, things like that. He's a big FileMaker guy. So yeah, that might be a good question. We should have Canberra on the show sometime.
Yeah. I don't know how you do cat card auth.
Well, it has to go through the OAuth, right? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then it'd have to be because the newer version of FileMaker Server have a customizable OAuth kind of deal, right? So you'd have to
Yeah, you can plug it in even for WebDirect now. And specifically on the server side, if you're doing direct like Pro database auth or Go database auth, there's a custom IDP as they call it, but it's OAuth, but like you supply every of the like 25 details that you might actually need for an OAuth setup. And so you can kind of choose your own provider. So I'll put it this way, if one of those providers knows how to do cat card authentication on their end, then you could probably wire that up. Yeah. And then FileMaker doesn't actually have to know that you're doing a cat card auth. Your OAuth provider would handle that, essentially.
Right. Yeah.
Redirecting real quick. Canberra gave a response.
Yeah, Canberra says, we are using CAC to authenticate on all platforms. Windows users were able to have one-legged network applications and as long as CAC was in, no, the login was needed. However, that was okay. So can you copy paste that, Margaret, everywhere for me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So basically the answer, I guess the answer there is actually that if you're doing CAC logins, if that's so, what I didn't know that actually. I'm familiar with them for other reasons, but so if that actually just is an alternative authentication mechanism for the Windows domain system, which is what that's describing.
Yeah,
then
it's
you
Active
can
Directory.
just do that.
It's just Active Directory. That's it. You're done.
All you have to do is join the FileMaker server to the domain, and then define the group of people, which will be like the FileMaker users in the organization who are allowed to log in, basically.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's it.
So that's actually easy, and that's been supported for a long time. We're not CAC people, right? So that's the thing.
Yeah.
So
thank you, Canberra, for explaining that. That's
wow.
perfect. So
can we have him on the show? How do we bribe him? I got stacks of cash in here. Where's my stacks of cash? He's retired, but maybe he can. The smell of greenbacks.
Would be a fun session.
Cool. Yeah, I just know
requirements and FileMaker applications.
Paid for with fake Monopoly money, right? So there you go.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be great. Most time he sits on a boat enjoying retirement. So
that was for the unclassified side of things, not the classified side. Classified side is a whole different ball game.
Yeah, I'm sure that thing uses a whole other network and everything else. So
yeah, there's supposed to be separate networks and stuff. So
the other question that we did not specifically address from Obelix is, are there any government agencies using Cloud FM with CAC? And I think the answer to that question would be no, assuming that you're talking about the FileMaker Cloud Platform, because it doesn't do, I don't think it does Azure Auth. Sorry. Yeah, you could do Azure AD maybe?
It'll do Azure.
Do they let you farm that out? Because usually it's the Claris ID only.
No, you can connect it.
Did they strip that?
No, they have the ability. You can extend it and connect to it with Azure AD.
So maybe. Sure. Okay. So the answer to theirs maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know if there are any government agencies. I have no knowledge of that whatsoever. But on a technical, is it possible? Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you have one customer that's dabbling with high security stuff, and we'll probably, unfortunately, one way or the other, we're going to have to be more knowledgeable on this because we're getting dragged into some stuff.
But her thing is going to be deployed into probably classified or something, and so we won't touch it.
Okay.
It gets thrown over the wall to the prime, and they're. Okay. If we get that, my understanding is they actually rebuild the software themselves, essentially, not in FileMaker.
Okay.
We're.
Are they going to? So they're using FileMaker as a prototype, then, and they're going to build it something else.
It's basically the other usage for FileMaker, which is rapid application development, rapid prototyping.
Yeah, prototyping. So, people always say that, then they find out it's that to actually mimic the FileMaker behaviors are real, right?
Yeah.
It's real expensive.
I'm gonna let them spend the money on it.
Yeah, that's great. Obelix says if you could do a demonstration of a CRM using CRM, guess what? We have those. Using a government CAC authentication, don't got that, right?
Nope.
You could open a lot of doors in government contracts. Right?
Probably.
So
I can show it on my screen. Here's all you need. You're staring at all that you need. Well, you need the CRM. You go download ours for free, please and thank you.
Yeah, I always love that. It's okay.
Take your free stuff. If you have an objection or a problem to it, let us know how much you paid for it, and we'll write you a check back. The only other thing that you need here is you'll need a FileMaker server, probably on Windows, likely, although you may be able to do it with Linux as well. I haven't looked, so I don't want to commit to it. You'll need to join it to the domain of the people who have CAC cards, and then you'll need to, inside of that domain in your Windows, wherever that is, if it's Azure or a regular on-site deployment. So you'll need to define a group of those users that have access to FileMaker.
Yeah.
At that point, you can take those details and punch them into here, and that's it.
Okay, so this is really misleading here, so let me help everyone with this. We've covered this before at great depth. Oh, no, scroll back up. This one right here, I can't say enough. Unhappy faces, this is where you do the little inverted happy face here. Yep. But Claris, so this right here is the historic Active Directory that's on your network. Okay, so if you're using Active Directory with Microsoft, with the CAC cards in the building kind of stuff, this is what you're going to connect it to. It is not this. Okay, because Jacob is not going to move the screen. It's not that. What is that? That should say Azure. I should say Azure, right?
Azure
Over here. So
AD.
you're very clear. This is also happens to be Microsoft Active Directory, or if you have the open, whatever the Mac one that no one on the planet apparently uses.
This is your big one that you want.
Yeah. So this is the one.
And then you have to sub enable it. Yeah, that's why it's like this thing is backwards. So you fill it out up here with your group, right? You join the server to the domain, you put your group in on this top one, which doesn't strictly speaking make sense. And then you come down here and you say external server accounts, and then what? And you turn on the relevant. And then it'll work. And then your Windows clients that are already authenticated as their user to the domain, which in this case would be the actual like token, wouldn't be their password, it'd be their cat card plugged into their computer.
Hey, Margaret, could you find we did a Azure deep dive on Azure. I don't know, within the last 6 months.
Yes, I can. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I'll go find it.
It was with it was server 12.12. I keep saying 12. 19.3 with the last version of 3, and then right after we did that, they came out with 19.4, and but it didn't really change Active Directory. What they did with 19.4, if you scroll up, is this customized.
The custom
this one.
IDP.
Stop. This one right here is the new one, right? I think, and so they added that, but you don't need. This is for some other services, right? When we did the demo, we did Microsoft. Oh, go ahead.
No, just look at all the settings here. I know I'm kind of intentionally scrolling quickly. You can, it's everything. So you can choose your own adventure on OAuth, basically. So all the details, everything. You can even put, does it have the icon in there? Somebody was asking how to do that. There might be a.
I can put that in YouTube for you. I'll do YouTube, Margaret.
Anyway, somebody was asking if they could put their, I think that's where that JavaScript thing came in actually, but someone was asking if they could put instead of, because it had like the Microsoft icon or something like that.
David Angel says, what is IDP? Identity provider.
Identity provider.
So like the common thing you see if you log into Facebook, well, actually Facebook is an identity provider. Pick something else like Pinterest. You go to Pinterest. I go to Pinterest. I have old TV sci-fi shows, and I have helicopters because that's just what I care about, right? And so, but to log in, I can either have a Pinterest account, or it says you can also authenticate by Google through my Google account, Gmail account, right? And so Pinterest goes to Google, and I sign on with Google. They confirm my identity. I am Richard Carlton, and it sends it back to Pinterest. So I actually never authenticate directly with Pinterest. When I want to log in, it goes to Google, comes back. You can do that with Facebook, Google, Amazon, and whatever. And there are a bunch of small companies that do this. We shared the videos here for everyone, day 1 and day 2. Apple is not one, not yet, not that you see widely used. Maybe someday, but
that's coming.
Oh, is it coming?
Yep. There's going to be an Apple. Where's that supported? Is that 19.5? Am I losing it, or did Claris strip that?
Nah. Well, listen. Claris has provided secret, double, triple secret probation access for Apple ID because Apple. Okay, conveniently enough, Claris is actually Apple. Claris is actually.
This is
Apple,
a separate thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Claris is actually Apple, and the Apple people who use FileMaker wanted their stuff to connect with their own Apple identity providing. So it's been a super secret. If you hold the Option Shift Alt F2 and you hold your left foot in the air while you're doing the setup, this extra shit comes up. So anyway,
it's in 19.6.
So, okay, they're making it public in 19.6. All right, well, it's Friday in the day. We appreciate all the good questions.
That's true.
Apple, I think that I confuse Apple employer login with Apple sign-on. Yeah, absolutely, I confuse because I don't use either one of them, right now.
Yeah. The thing that's coming is what you might otherwise call iCloud auth or something else.
Oh, good God. Is that what they're going to call it?
Yeah, no, I think it's Apple sign-in. I think that's the name for it, but just to differentiate it. It's the public thing. It's
so the Apple employer login is going to be different than the Apple sign on. It seems to me, okay, well that ought to make IT real happy. All right. Well, whatever. So when is the live from barbecue?
It'll go
show?
great for the organizations that do all Macs and do the centralized Mac management stuff. And so you get a company iCloud, if you will. And so you'll be able to sign into your FileMaker apps with that in Pro, probably, whatever.
Okay,
it's I don't know. The directions for setting it up that I read were a little horrifying. So like worse than the stuff.
Oh, that's right. Have. They had that like 2 pages of like single space.
It was like yeah. It was
horrible.
2 full pages of single space directions.
Oh yeah, so I can't wait for that.
It was not fun.
We should get Josh Orman to come on the show and then suffer through that, so we don't have to. We can sit and we can have snacks and have drinks, and he can do it for everyone. That'd be awesome.
I'll bring drinks. Yeah,
we'll bring drinks.
We'll need drinks.
We'll need drinks. All right, we're going to cut it loose for today. If you folks have questions for Mr. Taylor about server, shoot an email to support@rcconsulting.com. All right, and that's it for Friday. We'll see everyone on Monday. Got a report of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir.